What do you do with all that attention now that you're getting from these different women in your DMs now that you are going to
That's
make
why
them
we're
a
starting
pillow?
the interview.
Exactly. We're just going to get a little rolling start. We'll at some point I'll break us and slow us down, but I think this is an interesting place to start.
Okay, what's up?
What's cracking, bro? David Sebastian, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Glad to be here. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It really is. Um,
Women, attention, DMs.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you put out you were telling me this story as you walked in. Why don't you just start from the top?
Um, yeah, this morning I just like made a post and I was like, if you got a crush on me, let me know and I'll send you a plush David Sebastian pillow. And I'm thinking it's either gonna be a pillow or like a stuffed animal. Like I was thinking, like like imagine like having like a plush David Sebastian stuffed animal. I think that'd be really cool too. But yeah, man, I've always been very very close with specifically the women who follow me. Women have patronized my business so much, man. Like honestly, have given me the most love since I started. Like when I hit hard times in life, it has always been a woman like supporting me and picking me up. Like when I couldn't get groceries, like it was that person like, yo, I got your grocery. Like, like I just love women, man. I grew up single parent household, mom, and I have all aunties. So growing up around all women, you develop this reverence for just feminine energy. And yeah, man, I've been a heartthrob since I was 5, man.
I love it. No, I love it. I think it's interesting because when you become a public figure with fans, dealing with all that attention
Yeah,
is challenging.
could
So I
be.
feel
It could
like
be, unless you thrive in it.
yeah,
There's some people who are like, I'm so famous, it's just giving me anxiety. And I can understand how that could be the case, unless you just like, unless it fuels you and that energy, and that energy gives you energy.
yeah.
I've never.
I
There's
think it
never.
does. I feel like fame is a super energizing thing. It's just about which direction it's pointing you in,
I
right?
mean, it could be like a very vampiric thing. I don't even know if that's a word, but
I know exactly what
yeah,
you're saying.
it could suck the life out of you, and a lot of times artists, they get addicted to that fame because once you get, there's nothing like being on stage and having hundreds, thousands of people screaming your name, your songs. It's like the Jay-Z has that song on the American Gangster soundtrack where he was like saying that fame is kind of synonymous with like a drug, so
I believe that to be true.
you know
I think it's a drug for
and
sure.
that's why a lot of artists, when they hit their peak and then they start collapsing, they start spiraling out because they need that fix,
Right.
you know
Right.
so
Tell us a little bit about yourself. You do so many things well, and so I want to like give you a proper introduction, and I think I'm gonna create some sort of intro to this
yeah.
prior to us putting this out. But I kind of want to give you space to introduce yourself.
um I am this also reminds me of like another Jay-Z interview with Nardwar when he's like, "Who are you?" And he could have just been like, "I'm Jay-Z," but he's like, "I'm a voice of the people. I'm a blah blah blah." It gives like this hella deep meaning. So I could tell you my name, but that's not who I am, right? I could tell you where I'm from, but that's not who I am. I could tell you the things that I've done. That's not who I am. Really, the soul of me, the heart of me, is kind of an indescribable, infinite thing. A lot of times we attach who we are with what we do. We attach who we are with where we're at. We attach who we are with what we have. But those things have nothing to do with who we are. So I am just this infinite being floating in fucking space, creating every day, man, creating moments, creating magic, creating art, creating Yeah, I'm just a creator, I guess, if you break it down.
Absolutely. How long you been creating?
I mean, since I was born, since I popped out my mom's fucking stomach. I mean, creation is that's why I feel like, I have an album called We Are God. Like, we are most like God because we are creators. But creating professionally, since like getting paid for my creations, since I was 16. Uh I've said this many times, but dropped out of high school situation, wanted to make a way for myself in this world, and I created a portfolio, went door to door on Melrose, selling myself, and ended up, working with Teenage Millionaire and Christian Auger and all these people, selling my ideas. So professionally, since I was 16, yeah.
Did the music come before like the apparel design and stuff, or like what kind of came first when it came to?
So I've been fantasizing about being an artist, a rapper, since like Sunday school when I was like 13 years old. I had a Sunday school teacher named Mike B. I pray one day I find him. I think he'd be so proud of me. But he got me the college dropout, and like before then, my mom, black, but like she let me like I really like was on some Skater, Corn, Limp Biscuit, fucking Orgy. Like I didn't really like listen to much rap. I kind of listened to like eclectic shit or like my mama's vinyls, Diana Ross, Sade, shit like that. But the first hip hop album that I really got into was the College Dropout. And before then, like I was exposed to rap. Like my best friend, rest in peace. His name's Michael Sigbifia. When I was a kid, I used to visit his house, and he had two older brothers, and they would always be playing Tupac, and they'd always be playing this. And I remember like the smell of like African food and Tupac, and that always had like a resonance with me. But yeah, college dropout, 11 years old, I wanted to make music, and I always wanted to make music. The only reason why I became a designer is because I thought it was an easier gateway to get people to respect me, because like everyone could be a rapper, you know what I mean? Especially at that time, like everyone's a rapper now, everyone's a designer now too, because it's so much easier to find those resources to call yourself a designer. But like 10 years ago, you'd have to have like the plug on the manufacturing, you'd have to have someone cat it out, illustrate, you'd have to have a whole like thing.
Yeah, pre IG,
Pre IG. Now everyone's a designer, but back then, if you said you were a designer and you actually made clothes, you were special. So I just started with that.
You're also a fine artist too, and I've seen some of your artwork, your paintings, and they're incredible. When did that process start for you?
My father was a fine artist before he became a rabbi. He I've seen him a handful of times, and I remember my mom used to take me to his gallery, and I the smell of like oil painting. He would do these huge, like 15-foot paintings, and they really inspired me. But since I was drawing with crayons, I was making fine art. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure I had some prodigy shit. I used to be fascinated when I was like 4 or 5 with just drawing mansions, and in the backyard a huge pool with like drum sets and Ferraris. Cause my mom used to drive us around. Like we grew up like middle class, but like tilting towards like lower class kind of thing. But my mom used to drive me around Beverly Hills and Rodeo Drive, and we would just get out the car and just look at mansions. We would just like sit in front of mansions, and maybe that was her way of manifesting. But I just had this infatuation with opulence and getting my mom a house. So that's how I started painting, man, just drawing mansions.
So dope. Yeah, so you're a musician, you're an apparel designer, you're a fine artist, and you're kind of doing this all simultaneously, right? What does like a normal day from the time you wake up look like? Any
So,
routines?
so I'm actually glad I'm glad you asked that question, because that's the question I wish I knew about most of the people I look up to. Like, there's not enough interviews understanding the routines of, you know, good minds, great minds. So I want to answer that. But real quick, you know, as far as these like titles and these pockets that we put others in, ourselves in, like, you know, people say, "Oh, you're a designer, you're an artist, you're a rapper." Well, what kind of music do you make? Oh, you make this. Okay, what kind of art do you make? Like, I think maybe it's the human condition to label things. Maybe it makes it more digestible or quantifiable for us to understand. But like, to me, like, I want to remove all those labels because I don't think I'm a designer or a rapper or an artist or any of these things. I think they all kind of intravenously intertwine into just one seamless perspective. So like, how could I say this? I draw a picture, right? That drawing can also be put on a t-shirt, right? Or it could be put on a suit. You know, I'm listening to music, or I want to create a soundtrack to what I'm listening to while I'm creating. I'm saying words. What am I talking about? Maybe I'm talking about the things that inspire the painting. You know what I mean? Like, it's all like this cyclical thing. And it's just crazy. Like, people ask me, like, who don't know my music, like, what kind of music do you make? Well, like, I don't know. I make good music. I make music that means I like, I don't want to just say like I make rap music, because it's not that. I make soul music. I don't want to just say I make soul music. Sometimes I want to scream on a track. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, it's like all of these things. So I want to come up with a word to where I don't need any words, quote unquote. But my routine.
Nah, to just double click on kind of what you just said there.
Yeah.
I think you're in touch with the source of your creativity.
Yeah.
And I know just the little bit of time I've spent around you.
Yeah.
It's always just kind of flowing out of you. You're like having an idea and you're like, oh, boom. And you like make the call, you make the text, you start the conversation, you throw it out there.
Cause I'm not just pulling from a source. The source is all around us. Like, I could come up with the song off of this couch. I could come up with a collection off of the texture of this rug, or, you know, like, there's no such, like, everything is everything. It's all like inspiring if you can just be sensitive enough to pay attention to the details. Like,
ooh.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that sensitivity.
Open,
can I
present.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I want to answer the routine thing, because
yeah, it's interesting.
it's so I wrote a contract with myself that I sign every day. I printed out like 1,000 of them, and it's an actual physical contract that I wake up and I sign, locking me into who I am and what I am. Like, I will not do this today, but I will be this, and this is and then I sign it, you know, just to like lock me in. That's
so fucking gangster. I love that shit. I love that shit.
Literally on my concrete table, I just have.
That is why I'm recording this podcast right there. That is the most gangster shit I've ever heard. Anyways, go ahead.
Because I feel like every day we make a contract, we just don't know it, you know, and you know, sometimes we let circumstances, we let climate, we let friends deviate our perception of ourselves, of our reality, what we want to do. But there's nothing more important than creating a law with yourself, saying, I will do this and not break it. So anyway, I wake up 5:30. My sound alarm is James Brown, I Feel Good, you know. And I have like these horsehair loafers next to my bed that like slide on my floor. So like the first thing I do is like dance out of bed, because I think it's really important to get your frequency high. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you wake up and you could be groggy and you could just easily slip into like IG vortex. But like, when you get up, get the blood pumping, you know, like, what's that motivational speaker dude? He talks like this, and he's
Tony Robbins.
Tony, right there. That's funny that you like people just know that, you know. Yeah. But he has a thing where he like wakes up and he does this like breathing thing that like, you know, whatever. So I kind of take bits and pieces and just turn it into me. I'd rather dance. So I dance. I sign a contract with myself, and I hit the gym, go to Equinox.
Really quickly,
Yeah,
I want to talk about the contract.
yeah.
What is on that contract? What is not on that contract? Does it change? How often does it change?
Um. So there's a future me that exists 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and the only thing that is gonna get me to him is what I do right now. Like like every move you make today affects who you are 10 years from now. So the contract really is a reminder of who that person is and what he's doing and what he's not going to tolerate, and then I just like live into that character, you know? Um yeah, and then there's like little basic bro, like it's so crazy. Like I play lots of games with myself. So like I'm stuck to a routine now, but the way I got to that routine is I got post-it cards, right? And I labeled it 1, 2, 3, 4, up to like 10, right? So like 1 would be put shoes on, dance, right? The second would be on the refrigerator, drink some water, right? The third would be on the fucking mirror, recite some fucking affirmations. The fourth would be by the door, grab your bag, like, and I just have these like little post-it notes just reminding me to stick to this kind of routine, man. Yeah. And the only reason why I go this hard on this is because discipline really is the key to everything. And growing up, I wasn't the most disciplined. I mean, we all have discipline. We just don't activate it. I don't, ADHD, very hyper, fucking mind everywhere. Your mind can wander and you can just do anything and become addicted to the little dopamine triggers of like, I want some head right now, and you could just be like, man, fuck this work. I'm going to So I realized that everyone that I admire who has ever done anything great on this planet has supreme discipline. So that's been a big trigger for me, like instilling that in myself. So
In a way, discipline equals freedom.
100%.
And what it's just so as simple as that. When you came to that, was like being an undisciplined kid,
Yeah.
and then like when did that switch happen? When you started studying the greats and you started paying attention to like anybody in the world that had made an impact, you were like,
I mean, I've been pretty I mean, I've it's weird because I run the fine line of being like undisciplined and super disciplined, because like a lot of my friends who are eccentric artists who have no discipline, they just wake up and do whatever they want. Like I'm like eccentric to the point, but I also have an agenda. You know what I mean? Like I also have Zoom calls scheduled and business. Like I can handle business. I was actually just talking to someone about this. I forgot who I was talking to, but they were like, "David, you're like so talented, but you're not crazy." And I was like, "Damn, you're right." Because most of the niggas who are like genius level thinkers, they're crazy as fuck. They're the Basquiats. They're the, you know what I mean? They're like, they have no concept of time or reality. They're just like expressing themselves. Where I have to wear two hats. I have to be eccentric, creative, endless thinker when I'm like painting or making music, doing anything. But then I also have to, what is the business? What's the ROI? Oh, I got to start a corporation and I need to create a fund. So like funnel all, like, you know what I mean? Like I have to legitimately.
but I think that your creative expression extends to your business, and I think there's a lot of, I mean, would you say that your creativity even flows into like the way you do business?
I mean, like I said, I think everything flows into everything.
Right.
I think you can't be one thing without it spilling over to something. When I think creatively now, especially now, I'm thinking business as well. Like I would have a manager or someone being like, "Oh, you can't do that because blah 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 blah," or like, "What is your profit margin? What's your takeaway?" But now when I'm thinking of that, I'm like, "Yo, I really want to do that." Oh, but if I do that, oh, maybe I should do it this way because this way would be blah blah blah. I think it's like the difference between like Kanye and Jay-Z, and I hate to like use this reference because managers have preached this to me my entire life, and I've always been like, fuck you, I'm Kanye, in the sense of like, Kanye and Jay-Z, they got into a huge argument when they did their tour because Kanye wanted to build a fucking huge cube that took up like 90% of their profits. And Jay-Z was just like, I just want to be on fucking stage. Like, none of that shit. Let's just make the money. And for me, I'm going to always build the cube, Like, money is literally just a fucking tool, man, to create your dreams. So it really depends on what you want more. Do you want to create, or do you want to like build wealth? Because I'm the type of person, like, I have $1 billion, but then I could like build something that can change. I don't know. You get what I'm saying, though,
dude? Yeah, and it's crazy because me being a manager and me very like interested in building wealth and those type of things and consistency and like vehicles in order to do that is just interesting because like it's almost like both of those paths actually lead to the same place. Because like Kanye, who's someone who's like spent all the tour money on every single tour, somehow still manages to get to $1 billion. And so is Jay-Z. And it's like obviously their mindsets around it are a little different. But it's almost like it's crazy because it both leads to the same place, which ultimately is wealth, right?
I mean, but I put it like this, you could be remembered for a lot of things, right? And you could be remembered as the wealthy guy who has fucking $10 billion, or you could take your wealth and be remembered for the things you do with your wealth. So I would rather be remembered for what I did with the money instead of just dying with all of it.
Right. We were getting through your daily routine, so we were past the affirmations on the mirror.
Mirror, blah blah blah. Workout, come back, and I have a journal, right? I think I read this book called The Artist's Way. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah, actually, that's crazy. That's the journal I write in every single morning.
Okay, so I do my journaling, 3 pages, and then I read the script again, man. I have these.
Let's talk about the morning pages really quick because this is near and dear to me because I do this.
Yeah.
How transformative have the Artist's Way morning pages journal like been in your life? Like, give me some insights. Give me some.
I will, but I'm actually kind of sad because I just got back from London and I lost the journal in which I've been writing for like ever. In like I it was in my house. I literally came home with it in a bag. And I don't know where it's at now. And I'm like freaking the fuck out. But real quick, like my reminders, I have reminders that go off every 20 minutes, every 30 minutes. And like one of them is like, so like I do this thing where it's like max out push-ups for the future you. That goes off at like 7:30 p.m. So like literally I'll be like, excuse me, and I'll just go hit some push-ups. Or like, what, like, every 2 hours, what are you focusing your energy on right now? Does it serve your higher self? Hold on, I want to give you a good one. In order to be who you've never been, you must do what you've never done. That goes off at 11:11 So like I set up these like fucking reminders, man. But as far as the Artist's Way, I think it helps because you have so much in your mind, like, and just to be able to like flow on paper and not judge it, not really maybe even many days having a focus just to let it out. I think it helps me.
Yeah, I'm so much more clear and relaxed after that exercise.
Yeah. How long you been doing it for?
I've been doing it since 2016.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So. I've filled up because I use the actual journal. I got this practice from Tim Ferriss, who's like my favorite podcaster.
Oh, wow.
And I just kind of followed his script on it. I heard him mention it several times. Yeah. And I was like, this journaling practice seems like something that I should try. Try, implement. And I filled up 4 of those journals. So like on average, you miss some days. Yeah. I just usually try to do one page because it's like kind of an oversized journal.
Yeah.
1 page in there every day, and it has a nice little prompt. And I probably do it like 200 days a year. Good. So I miss them occasionally. Because that's something I like to track too, because I think it's interesting. It's like, how many days a year did I journal this year? Certain busier years where I've only done 100, you're going, oh, that's 1 in 3 days. Certain years where you're like really disciplined on it. And then to kind of think back, because I think it affects your mood. Once you get that shit out of your system, because that stuff will start bubbling up into how you're approaching your day, the people you're dealing with, like what's going on, and a lot of it you realize once you put it down. I don't even go back and read them. In fact, I don't think I've ever gone back and read them, and I have 4 journals full.
You will one day.
Yeah.
You will
Yeah.
one day. Um, I do mine's a little differently. It's gonna sound like super, probably weird, but so like I believe life is a screenplay, right? Your life is a screenplay, and you wrote it before you even incarnated here, and we're all just actors in each other's screenplays. So, but I think you can narrate your future screenplay by like writing it. So every day I write what's going to happen to me. Like, and it's crazy how accurate the shit is. And it might not happen that day. But like I'll just be like I'll literally write first person POV and then this happened. Then I met this person, they introduced me to this person, and then it just fucking happens, dog. It's crazy.
That's dope. That's really, really dope. I like that concept too. Like, will you go into that a little bit about how you feel like your world is a screenplay and everyone's world essentially is a screenplay? Because I heard you say something about that on the No Jumper podcast, and I thought that was actually like pretty interesting and true.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I personally believe we are all expressions of God, right? And in this three-dimensional prison we call life, and I call it a prison because, 1D is like just like this, right? 2D is this, like a, fucking Sega Genesis. We're in 3D. We can only do this, and and this, right? But like 4D is like we'll be able to fucking fly and we'll be able to do all this in 5. So right now we're like on the lower part of the video game. So anyway, so God has to express himself, and because what's the fun of being God? Could do anything, go anywhere, be anyone, do anything, feel no pain. What's the fun in that? So I believe, he created us, right? And we feel pain, we feel sorrow, we feel hurt, we feel love, we have dreams, we have this, and we get to experience this infinite spectrum of emotions. So a lot of the times when bad shit happens to you, I know I have friends who like really bad shit happens to them and they're like, why would this happen? And they don't understand that it has to happen. They have to experience it because it's just God experiencing itself. It's like you wonder like, how can there be certain people who go through this, or why did this certain tragic thing happen? And it's as perfect as all of the good things that happen. Like it's like all on the spectrum. So I literally am the God in my world. I don't let things happen to me. I and that's a choice. And I, I've told that to some of my friends and family, and I don't know if they actually listen, but you have one choice. You can allow the things that happen to you. You could be the one who things happen to, or you could be the motherfucker who makes things happen. And a lot of people are in this cycle where shit just happens to them. Like, do you have any of those friends that are like, oh, this just happened and fuck, this just happened and I lost this and fucking, it's just like a spiral of just fucked up shit. What? That's your choice, because you can let those things happen, or you can grab hold of the fucking steering wheel and make it happen. Make what you want happen. Some things are out of your control, but you still have control over your reaction to those things that happen,
yeah. It's so much of life is how we react to it.
Real quick. I lost or maybe they stole it. I don't know. But in my hotel room, I lost a ring that was like $40,000, right? $40,000 ring. And I think maybe someone stole it. So I go down casually to I'm talking to the manager of the hotel, and they were super sweet, and they were like, why aren't you panicking? And I was just like, why would I? They're like, what? That's blah, blah, blah. I'm like, showed them receipts. They're like, I would be losing my shit. I was like, listen, if you guys find it, do some investigation, let me know. Here goes my number. And they're just like, do you have that much money where you just don't care? I'm like, no, but is me stressing out about this gonna bring this fucking ring back? What is
Exactly.
like what is this gonna do? Is me being frantic and sad, and that's just gonna create more fucked up shit to happen.
It's only affecting your internal state.
100%.
So then it's like it's you inflicting pain on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And we like to do that because we are sadists, most of us. We actually cause all the problems in our life so we can feel like we are overcoming something. The human mind is fucking funny.
Wow. There's so many different directions that we could take this, but I just keep. I want to keep. You said there's only two real things, and it's love and fear.
Yeah.
What are some practical ways? Maybe define that, and
Yeah.
then what are some practical ways that you overcome fear, and how, and like maybe even a moment or two in your life that you've felt it, pushed past it. Anything practical.
Well,
Anything.
do you know the acronym for fear? False evidence appearing real.
Okay. Boom. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, fear actually comes when you're in, like, real fear comes when you're actually in a state of, like, you're in the water, there's a fucking shark coming, right? It's real fear. Most of the shit that we deal with on a day-to-day basis isn't actually fear. Like, it's disguised as fear. It sounds like fear, but fear can only be felt when you're, like, in immediate danger and you're fearing for something. But, like, most of the time, like, self-doubt, it's all this other shit. The reason why I don't fear doesn't even enter my vortex is because I'm not in any present and immediate danger, right? Like, no one's, like, my life isn't on the line, right? So everything else is just a choice. Like I said, like, I can choose to go into the unknown, into the abyss, or I can choose to stay safe. And I feel like being safe might be the one of the worst things you can do with your existence as a human being, playing it safe and staying inside this proverbial comfort zone. Because, like, dog, if you only knew how precious life is, I mean, I'm pretty sure you know, but, like, it can be gone like this, you know? And I feel like we don't value it. There's no way people can value the true meaning of life. Because, like, if you were to die and, like, in a cartoon and your body floated out, right? And then you seen the world for what it really is, like the 360 God view of, oh, fuck, this was all an illusion. I didn't have to work that job I hated. I could have literally done I could have done anything. But now I'm dead, so I can't do anything. But, like, I could have done anything. That girl that was hot, I literally could have just fucking talked to her. I could do anything. I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
you can do anything. It's like playing a video game with all the cheat codes. You know, there is not, like, you could literally be like, man, fuck this house, fuck everything. I'm leaving. I'm going to fucking Bangkok tomorrow. And just start a whole new life and be a fucking monk if you wanted to do that. You can do it, like, you know what I mean? There's no rules. The only rules are the ones society set for you, and those were created to keep you a fucking slave. So,
Wow. Did you I was recently reading the book called A Return to Love. Do you know that book? Marianne Williamson? But the concepts are very clear about essentially everything besides love is an illusion.
Okay.
And
Fear, illusion.
yeah, exactly. And I just thought, like, those, how clear you were with that. I was like, oh, maybe he's read this book before, but
I've read every book.
yeah, that's what I actually wanted to kind of land on with you, was like, your perspective is so fresh. You create you create a bunch of reminders to, like, operate within this.
Yeah.
Like, what is your self-study, like, looking like in order to establish these things, and and, like, obviously you're filling yourself up. I've heard you mention stoicism, which is, like, wonderful, law of attraction, meditation.
I mean, so someone asked me a couple of days ago, what books am I reading right now? And I feel like you get to a point, right, where you read the Neville Goodbards and the Napoleon Hills and books on neuroscience and books on quantum physics and books on motivation, laws of attraction, laws of fucking like, you know, all the laws, the law of seduction. You get to a point where you read everything to where everything just becomes redundant. It's just written in by a different author, right? Because it's not that fucking hard. It's not that difficult, man. Love and put love in everything you do. Be present while you're doing it. That's fucking Edgar Tolle, fucking Power of Now. Be present while you're loving. Use your imagination because your imagination controls your reality. That's like fucking all of that. But like, you know what I mean? Like it's all like.
Here's the problem though. People don't fucking read books, dude. And like that's something that even this year has kind of dawned on me because I found like a passion and a love for reading, and I think some of it can get at like what you're saying. It can get to a point where it's counterproductive. It's a waste of time, and you should go build things, and you should go apply things all the shit you've learned to the real world.
Right.
But you even saying Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, or Power of Now is fucking like these are texts that every human should read. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. It's like you should understand this conceptually.
They should be giving that in schools.
They should be teaching it in school. And
but of course you know why they wouldn't though, right?
Cuz it removes you from the matrix.
Yeah, they don't want a generation of kids removed from the matrix because you can't control that.
So it's like, because it's like I guess what I'm saying is I'm pushing back on how much you're simplifying these concepts, but I'm like, nobody gets this when you're walking around outside
because it's not meant for them to get it, man. Like this is a hard lesson I had to learn when I went through my I'm gonna save the world phase. You know, Tupac said, you know, a black man by the time he turns 30, society sucks the soul out of them, like the heart out of them. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to fight anymore. Like when you're 20s, you're revolutionary, fight the power. But by the time you're 30, you get a kid and shit, and you're just like, man, fuck it, you know. And I think that's because you start to realize some truths that I don't think any one man can change the world. You can plant the seed, like Pac said. He was like, I'm gonna plant the seed for someone who changes the world, but this society, this world that we live in, has been so deep rooted with systematic fucking devices that have enslaved not only us but our parents and our parents' parents and our parents' parents. So you're fighting like 5 10 20 100 generations of fucking mental slavery and bondage. So people not reading now, it's not even their fault because their parents didn't read and their parents didn't read. So they, like it's so fucked. So that's why everything I do, be it music, be it art, be it this, is all like giving out these seeds because you can spark the mind. You can plant the seed in someone and then they'll like, you don't even know, man, there's this girl I know. She's hood as fuck. She hit me fucking 3 days ago. Was like, yo, I'm in Barnes and Nobles. Do you have any books that you think I should read? I told her to get the Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Noble Shin and I told her to get Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Yeah, Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, Joe Dispenza. And she brought the books and she hit me like a day ago. She was like, yo, these books changed my life. Like, what? So you can inspire people to do that shit, but it's not coincidence that people don't read. It's not coincidence that the school system aren't teaching people real tools. School is an indoctrination. It's not an education. It's like, how do we take these kids, suck all of their spirit out, all of their, you know what I mean? Like, that's where why do you think schools look like prisons? You think that's a coincidence that they're all metal gates around in these fucking buildings that look like they all look like prisons? Why do you think we have to stand in line? Why do you think the chairs are like a fucking assembly line?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's one teacher at the head of the class telling everyone what to do?
Do you think that this is like, obviously it just seems semi Because when I'm thinking about like even reimagining it, and I know there's a lot of people like
I've done it.
Elon has like his school, Ye has his school, and obviously they're
I'm gonna
trying
build
to
a school, by the way.
amazing. They're trying, and you guys are gonna try to reimagine it. What does it look like to you that you think is better? Because it's got
students are the teachers and the teachers are the students, and there's a cycle of where the teachers learn from the kids and the kids learn from the teachers, and instead of being in lines, you're in circles, and it's like it's. And instead of teaching kids to draw inside the box, you teach them to draw outside the box. And, instead of giving the same curriculum to everyone, you put people in groups of their strengths and their passions.
That is so important because I feel like discovering your gifts and your passions is one of the most formational ways that you can change change your life, and like live. I think that's one of the most simple ways to like identify how you can live the most abundant life.
Bro, a giraffe can't be a monkey and a monkey can't be a tiger. So why would you teach them the same exact things?
Exactly. I want to write down some of those books that you said too. So
I will, man. I got a couple.
Yeah. This podcast is called Student of the Game. So
yeah.
I need the game of life, and how to play it. I need that.
That book actually changed my life. But I would suggest the audio book of it because the woman who's speaking, her voice is very it's just very cool. I would on YouTube, just the game of life and how to play it. And she breaks down like some of her text breaks down the Bible, right? But from like a perspective you would never think. Like we read the Bible and we think it's this, but she breaks it down from like a neurological kind of like this is what it really means kind of thing.
Yeah. I listened to your piece about that in the podcast, the No Jumper podcast.
Yeah.
And I could tell you were like, you could have like gone down that rabbit hole, but you kind of like floated kind of around that. But and your thoughts on Christ consciousness were really, really interesting as well.
Yeah, man. Christ consciousness is so. Have you seen this series? I think it's on. They only had one season. And it was about like this dude who came back as Jesus.
Yes. Actually, what is it called? Messiah. I think I'm only like halfway through it.
Yeah.
My dad actually recommended it to me, but it's really dope.
So they're not bringing back a second season, which kind of sucks because like the cliffhanger on the end is like crazy. But Christ consciousness, if achieved, is so far past what is acceptable in society that you would do what they did to Jesus. You would fucking kill him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like think about that. Like they fucking killed fucking Jesus for being limitless.
Bro, it's wild. It's so wild.
So like that's my main goal in life, like to achieve Christ consciousness. And I have a ways to go, but when I do achieve it, like I always said, before I leave this planet, I'm gonna fly. Like that's one of my goals, to actually fly. And I believe that I'm actually going to do it because flying is just a product of faith. Like, yeah, you can like argue aerodynamics and stuff, but I believe like your imagination, you could be so faithful to your ability to do anything. I mean, how do you think Jesus was turning water to wine? You know what I mean? How do you think parting the Red Sea? It's like you can bend air, you can bend molecules, you can shapeshift, you can do anything if you believe it. I believe that this reality isn't bent on there's rules like gravity and shit like that, but I believe you can bend those rules and break those rules if you realize, like the Matrix, how do you bend the spoon? You realize there is no spoon. So you're just bending yourself.
Yeah. Do you have
I be getting deep as fuck.
No, I love this shit. I love this shit. What is your, I guess, like when you think about achieving Christ consciousness, what is your strategy in order to get there?
So like for instance, like, I mean, I talked about this a little bit on No Jumper. Damn, another hair, man. What was
Sorry,
this girl
dude.
doing?
I got hair, bro. I got hair.
Oh,
Could
this
it
is
be
your
my-
mic? Is this your mic?
I don't. I mean, yeah, these are my mics.
Okay, so it's probably your hair then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay.
sorry.
No, it's not even a bad thing. I thought it was
gross. I
like a
gotta
girl.
clean- I
Like,
gotta
what was the chick doing with the microphone? Like, for instance, like I talked about No Jumper when I like set my hand on fire. You know, it was a very serious thing. Because I think one of the first steps to achieving Christ consciousness is removing fear, right? You can't do anything magical in life if you're afraid. So that means afraid of death. That could be afraid of pain. You know, like, have you watched Fight Club before?
Yes.
It's one of my favorite movies. But remember, he put his hand down, and he poured the fucking hydroglycerin or whatever on his hand. He was like, go into your fucking cave, like it isn't real. And like at first it hit, but then he went into it and realized, you know, and then he poured the shit on it. So overcoming pain, overcoming fear, quote unquote, overcoming carnal desires, which is my hardest one because I genuinely love pussy, man. I really do. I do. So, but that's, you know, I feel like that might be the last one. I think I might fucking walk on water before I cure that one. I don't know. But on a real fucking note, just overcoming all of these carnal desires and pleasures that the ego kind of puts in place to keep you bound to an identity. You know, I think a lot of people have a misconception of what an ego is. You know, a lot of people say, like, if you're like cocky or something, like, you got an ego, you know, and that's not an ego. We all have an ego, and your ego is the thing that tells your avatar who you are. It's like your character settings. So like when you play NBA 2K, right, and you build your character, right, you're essentially just an avatar, right? You're just like a body. You're just like a meat body. And in order to navigate through this life, you need a character description. So my name is this, and I do this, and I go here, and I eat this. That's your ego. It's just parameters in which you identify as something. But to kill your ego is to really understand that those things aren't real. Those are just settings that you can fucking change if you want to. So
Do you think it's relevant to? It's. I think that it's relevant to be hyper aware of them, but.
Yeah.
And obviously, your experience of the world, your cinema, your movie, is a reflection of what your ego is casting onto the projecting.
Exactly.
How often do you think it's you? I just feel like it's cool to know that, not be limited by it, and understand if I want to reinvent.
Bro, I change characters all the time. When I was in London, I was fucking James Bond, dog. Like I'm like last night, like I'm not just David Sebastian. I'm like, I can literally, bro, if people had a camera on my life, they would see me going into some of the craziest crevices in on this planet and being someone completely different. Like I could be on Skid Row, no one even knows it. Some basketball shorts and some flip flops, not Davis bet nothing, and just like in a tent with like some like fucking drug addict, dog, just having like life conversations and just being in that. Or I could be with a billionaire on a fucking yacht in fucking Dubai, you know, in some fucking Tom Ford or some Polo, Ralph Lauren purple label shit, talking fucking diversifying portfolios. I could be the rapper nigga, you know what I mean? On, you know, fucking kicking it with Buddy and Guap Dad and talking about fucking bitches, you know? I could talk about, it could be anything and nothing. Because which makes any of them real?
Right. And what inspires the lane switch? What inspires is it just creativity, fun, unique experience, expression of this vessel, of this life?
I think just natural human instinct of what I'm drawn to, you know, like, and not being afraid to dive into that. Like I love luxury, you know what I mean? I love opulence. My mom programmed that into me by taking me to all these mansions and telling me right? So like I have a natural intuitive interest for rich people, rich, yachts and fucking Michelin star food and tailored suits and, real class fucking caviar and shit. I just like it. But then I also am from the streets, man. And I've had some of the most real, beautiful conversations with people who have nothing, so I can also be the person with nothing and appreciate that. So I think it's just natural interest in just leaning into them.
Yeah, I think that's so important. There's so much fear that will cause you not to lean into something like that,
100%.
Yeah.
Everyone's playing the same shit every day. Shit's got to be tiring at some point. And then it is tiring. That's what depression is. Depression is when your avatar gets tired of playing the character that it's been playing. Give you
so
some bars,
true.
dog.
Nah, that's a fucking bar. That's a bar. That's a bar.
When your avatar is like, man, I've been playing blah 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 for so long, and that's fucking depression, man.
What is your strategy for like when someone hits you and says, "Yo, I'm depressed"? Like, what do you tell them?
Go eat a cheeseburger. Get a blowjob. You can't be depressed eating something you like and getting a blowjob. It's impossible. Serious. For women too, get some head. I'm kind of joking, but I'm not. Anytime I've ever been really sad, I've used that method. I've gotten like just the best steak ever and just like had like some incredible sex, and it's like life ain't that bad,
Yeah.
But really though, if someone's depressed on a real level, first I would tell them to do the why theory. And the why theory for me, I created it, is ask yourself why you're depressed. And then when you get that answer, then ask yourself why again, and then why again, and then why. And you keep going to the common denominator, and you'll get to a place where you can't ask why anymore. And then normally when you get to that, you'll be like, why the fuck am I even depressed? You know what I mean? Like,
no, that why. A buddy of mine who's actually on like maybe the first or second episode that I recorded. I've probably done a couple dozen, but he said the same exact thing. He was just like, you just keep asking why. And he was like, sometimes you'll get to, most people don't ever get past 2.
Yeah.
And like, you can get to like 7,
Yeah.
A lot of it is, yeah, but that's so powerful, man.
So why, right? But then after that, just, because you put yourself here, you're why you're depressed. So you can just, also, depression is a
taking responsibility for it is fucking crazy too,
then
because then it's your responsibility to fix it too,
right? So,
and obviously, it's like that doesn't go without all the modalities and seeking professional help and doing all the things that can help.
Not telling anyone to not seek professional help, but sometimes you can be your own professional help, because the professional help that you're seeking, they're technically just listening to you.
And you know what a therapist will tell you?
Yeah.
You know you better than anybody.
Anybody, bro. You just
have to stop fucking lying to your bullshitting yourself.
I was gonna say, and don't get offended out there if you're like struggling with mental health and you're like, what? But like a lot of times that shit is an act. And it's an act you play with yourself. You know what I mean? Not like I'm faking the funk, but like, how do depressed people act? They're quiet. They're sad. They're introverted. They stay in the house. They this. They put like, what I mean? There's like, how do happy people act? How, you know what I mean? Like, it's all an act. Like, you can act happy, you can act sad.
Yeah, if you act happy enough while you're depressed,
you'll be happy. Because like, if you're like, fucking someone told me this, and it like, if you're sad as fuck and you force yourself to just smile, and you're just like looking at the wall smiling for long enough, you're going to get fucking happy.
Yeah.
Because it's all an act. We're all playing a role. And if you want to be sad, just continue to play sad. Just be the sad motherfucker. Or realize your power as a infinite being and act how you want. Fake it till you make it.
Taking extreme responsibility is so powerful. you mentioned stoicism, which is something I'm super interested in. What was your gateway into that? Obviously, that kind of lives in this world of self-help, of expanding consciousness, of studying.
So I mean, the extent of what you know about it, like, what have you read on it, or like?
So, an author, I read this book called The Ego is the Enemy.
Oh wow, okay.
And this author named Ryan Holiday. And Ryan Holiday has basically kind of reinterprets a lot of ancient Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, etc. And
Yeah.
he, I read Marcus Aurelius Meditations, which is like a really popular Stoic text. And
That's
yeah,
interesting. I
and,
gotta
and
read
Ryan
that.
Holiday basically pieced together this thing called the Daily Stoic that is just like one meditation every day. And
Daily
it's
Stoic.
really
Is that
cool.
on Twitter?
They're on Twitter. It's a book. I could show it to you somewhere up here.
But like, what's the meditation?
It's basically like it'll show a passage from like an ancient Stoic text. Ryan Holiday essentially will kind of ground it in some like modern day thought, and then it's just a daily read.
Could you give me an example of one? Like,
Page a day.
Is there one that pops into your mind? Like,
I don't know if I have like a quote.
it doesn't have to be a quote, but just like an idea, like a concept.
Really, just you're putting me on the spot, and I should I actually should know something. But hold on, let me see.
I mean, your brain does that when you put on the spot. Like all that, you could have had like 1,000 answers if I didn't ask you. But
right, no. Let me just pull something.
Marcus Aurelius.
It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. That's from Seneca.
I agree.
Yeah, and I to me, the Stoicism just rings so true. It's simple, it's actionable, it's time is of the essence. You're going to die. Amor fati, love your fate. That's one, I guess.
Yeah.
Amor fati, and it means literally being in love with your fate. Whatever happens to you, love it.
That I agree with that 100%, man.
That's an antidote to depression as well, right there.
Yeah.
Whatever happens to me in this life,
Love it.
Love it.
Damn, if people adopted that one concept right there, a lot of people would be a lot better off. Cause it's the finding conflict with the things that happen to us that send us into spiraling shit, man. And I'm at that point in my life right now where like I'm okay. Like I'm like, like you miss the bus, it's okay. Another one to come, You lose your money, you'll make some more. Your girlfriend leaves you, she wasn't the right one. Like you lost your ring, there's more diamonds, or maybe I don't even need it. Maybe the person who stole it needs it more than me. Maybe they have a family they need to feed. Like I literally like
even being present with like the feeling of losing something and going, how does this make me feel? And it even could be a reminder of like, oh, maybe if it hurts too much, even if I'm being honest with it, maybe shouldn't own a ring that much that could hurt me. Like
also the basic concept of you can't really lose anything because nothing belongs to you.
That is the other thing, the impermanence of life.
Yeah, like.
Yeah. No, Stoicism is like, it's just such a reality check. And the fact that they're like living like this 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius, I think, was like a king. But daily he's journaling and like grounding himself in reality in the way that and the impermanence of life.
I wish there was a smaller word for stoicism because I feel like that word alone could scare people.
The one thing that before I knew much about it, that word stoic, people think, oh, that's boring. I don't want to be stoic.
Yeah.
And so that right off the bat, like if you're in touch with your emotions or whatever, it makes you think, oh, I'm not going to experience the fullness of life. But to me, what it kind of directs you towards is like the things that are in my control, what's in my control and what's out of my control.
Yeah.
And being so clear about those two things.
Yeah.
And spending any amount of time on something that's out of your control is the biggest waste of life force and energy you ever could.
You just gave me a thought. I need to say it. It's not on this, but it's on consciousness. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the concept of like the rapture, right? Like in the end times, like people would disappear and be put into heaven or some shit. The day and age that we live in, consciousness is raising so high, but in both directions, right? To where like you have this minute minority of people who are like aware, like hyper aware, like on this like vibe of like self-awareness and all this shit. And then you have a majority of people who are like very much set in their ways and very much like prisoners to their beliefs and da 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 da. And those two people can't really have a conversation. Those people are kind of invisible to each other, because the second I sit down with someone and they start sprouting some like dumbass belief that's like, I know, like I just can't talk to you, because even if I try to, you know, it's often met with fucking more ignorance and blah blah blah. And I know that the best teacher is life experience, so those people will get it at some point, but it probably won't be through a conversation. It'll probably be through like life. But you talking that just made me think about like how there's going to be a point in humanity where the bar of like conscious and unconscious will come to a point where we'll be invisible to each other.
Man, and it's funny because as you work to raise your level of consciousness,
Yeah.
that one thing that's really clear is when you notice that someone isn't at that level or whatever reason, or even in the moment, you know,
Yeah.
we're all at different levels of
Yeah.
consciousness. It's kind of
Yeah.
fluctuating, right?
Yeah.
But that's, I think, something that's funny, is because it's like Stoicism kind of teaches you to control the controllables, right? So then you start getting really hyper clear about like, okay, what do I have control over? Do I have control over this traffic light or this other person driving? Like, should I shout at this other person because they cut me off? Or do I just go, oh, I didn't have any control of that? And like, or am I going to let it affect my internal state?
100%.
But the thing is when somebody in your life or in a conversation or whatever starts being really frustrated about something they have no control over,
Yeah.
it's funny because I realize, oh wow, not only does that person not have control over that, I don't have control over this person. And so instead of like me wanting to tell them like, don't worry about that because you can't do a goddamn thing about it.
Have you ever tried to do that and then they get mad?
Yes. And that's the thing I think that I realize, and that is
Stop
pointing
being so
at
fucking positive. Stop being, people have real fucking problems. I'm like,
that's one thing. That's why I believe what you just said, where the conscious and the unconscious will be invisible to each other, because I think at some point in time, when you're raising your level of consciousness, it becomes really hard to deal with people who aren't operating on that plane.
yeah. And sidebar, like, I'm not talking on some like spiritual conscious hierarchy shit, because there's a lot of people like that who use spirituality to feel more superior than others.
No, yeah, that's
and that's whack as fuck. That's
so
actually
lame.
unconscious.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about like just a natural like oil and water doesn't mix kind of thing, you know, just yeah, you know,
But I think that, yeah, okay, you're saying that, yeah, because I don't think it's like, I think that as you raise your level of consciousness, you want to support others in doing so as well, like kind of naturally.
Yeah.
But then obviously, from a humility standpoint, you also like, it's like you're not holier than thou. You're not better than any other meat suit walking the earth.
because that's real consciousness, knowing that though.
Yeah, it's like you're not better than anybody. And in fact, sometimes I realize when you said when people get mad at you about it,
Yeah.
that's I've experienced that before, and I think it's kind of funny because it's like that is what the dividing line, where you're like, oh, I'm just trying to be the best version of myself. Now that's making you mad, so I don't want to tell you like, oh, you're wrong, fuck off. I'm just gonna go in this direction, and it essentially just kind of pushes you away because at some point you're like, well, my medicine's no good here. So
Yeah, but a lot of times it's people I've noticed that just want to feel like shit, and they want to feel like shit, and they want someone to hear them feeling like shit, and then to validate them feeling like shit, and then when you try to give them the real medicine of like, you know, you have no reason to feel like shit, then they feel invalidated. But rather than feeling invalidated, they just feel like you're not I don't know, you're just not there. They don't see the bigger picture. I was going somewhere else with that, but I got.
What do you think causes people to want to feel like shit? What is that a byproduct of?
Being born into a world that makes you feel like shit, going to school and feeling like shit, having parents maybe that made you feel like shit, turning on TV and seeing celebrities who look amazing and you feel like shit, eating food that makes you feel like shit. I mean, we're kind of born into a world that is created to make you feel like shit. So then we become so conditioned to feeling like shit that we actually seek it out, because feeling good is so foreign to us that it's like a what? I feel great right now? That fucking ego, man. The ego needs you to be who you've always been, man. So if you felt like shit your whole life, you got to keep feeling like shit, because the second you start feeling good, you're not you anymore.
That's the isn't that the essence of break the habit of being yourself?
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Bro, I know like every part of the brain. Like I really study like neuroscience like 4:00 in the morning, you know, like I'm not a rapper.
That is a fact. You're absolutely not a rapper.
I put words together. They rhyme, but I feel like I'm more like a philosopher. I would like to go down as like a philosopher, man. It's funny, people don't. I mean, that was such like in the time of like Marcus Aurelius and that, you were a philosopher, but like there's not many philosophers now. There, at least they don't call themselves that.
Right. It's funny because it's like, I wonder if that's actually kind of wavy to just lean into that and just be like, I am a philosopher.
Yeah, for real. Like, what do you do? I'm a philosopher.
Yeah,
I philosophize.
I think a lot of it has to do with time, and then people kind of give them that title because, you know, Nietzsche.
Yeah.
He's like, they still kind of call him like a psychologist and stuff. And there's like a lot of people who like have had a lot of good ideas 100 years ago, and or like impactful ideas 100 years ago, but they like haven't really given them that name philosopher. And there's this other dude that named Naval online on Twitter. Have you seen Naval before?
No.
He's actually he's like a venture capitalist and
Is he Indian?
Yeah.
I just found him yesterday.
Did you?
For the first time, yeah. That's how I knew. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
There's a beard?
No. It's not. I think you're talking about Humble the Poet, maybe, or like I feel like there's more modern day philosophers, but we're using that word less. But there's this guy Naval on Twitter who he's like a Silicon Valley like business guy, but he like just writes really, they call him like a modern day philosopher because he just writes really simple wisdom to Twitter, and he's put together like a lot of really good ideas, and when he speaks he shares a lot of really cool ideas and like the intersection of like technology and art and creativity and wealth building and whatever. And I found like a lot of really useful stuff that he's put out there, and I think he's like has a lot of wisdom.
I gotta peep him, but on the self-proclamation vibe, that's also a very big secret. You literally can say you're anything, say it long enough, and people will believe you.
It's really important too.
Lil Wayne, I'm the best rapper alive. Even before nigga was the best rapper alive. I mean, it's all perspective, but I'm just saying, like, this was like Carter 1. I'm the best rapper alive. Until people actually started saying, oh, he's the best rapper alive. I'm a billionaire. Eventually you become a billionaire. You know, like, you can say anything and really just lean into it and believe it with all of your heart, and eventually it kind of just has to happen.
Do you use that regularly?
100%. One of the reminders that goes off like 8 times a day on my phone is um 50 billion streams, 7 billion net in sales, 600 plus employees, global operations. You are him right now.
That's got to be such a crazy pattern interrupt, because it's like, to think at that scale, you have to be like, okay, what would I be doing right now?
Exactly. So it goes off in conversations. I could be somewhere that shit goes off, and I'm like, would I be doing that right now? And if I was doing that right now, what would I be? What would my mindset?
Would I be doing what I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're taking it to like the full end of the game, the end scale of the game.
So like right now, if that went off and we're doing this, I'd be doing that if I had that.
You know what's crazy is I think the same thing. That is even some of the motivation with this podcast.
Yeah.
Is like, and I've even talking about fear. I've had a lot of fear around doing this for God knows whatever reason. And this conversation is inspiring me so much to even break out of that, because I'm like, dude, I know I was born to do this in a way, you know, and I know that I'm still so early in my process where my skill isn't to where like my mind with it could be, but I'm like the little fear of busting through it and like doing it.
But bro, just having this conversation with you, you're obviously a natural. You take it seriously. You have great conversation. You're dynamic in those things. All I would say, if I could give any type of advice, it would just be it's some advice I learned from Steve Harvey, and it was like one of his billionaire mentors told him that anything you're doing, 100x it, 10x it. So if you want $100,000, want $1 million. If you want 1 million subscribers, go for 10 million, right? And just that's the starting point, like 10x the starting point, because then you'll end up 10 times further than you would have been just being here. So like instead of crawling, start with flying.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
So like with this podcast, I mean, it has so much potential, but like what would it look like if
10x.
just in your mind 10x, and then just start there?
That's dope. No, you're putting the battery in my back, and I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
This conversation has been like super, super inspiring, and that's really like even why I want to do it. I want to talk to people I'm inspired by, interested in, and like kind of like try to deconstruct like the thought processes into like what made you who you are and how did you get successful, you know?
It's necessary because somebody's gonna watch this, and out of all this game we talk, like they're gonna change their life, you know, and then it's just gonna keep going. That's one of my goals this year, is to talk as much as possible.
Hell yeah.
You know,
man, I feel like that's probably a pretty good place to stop. I mean, maybe just
we didn't talk about no music shit. We did.
Let's do it.
No,
because I want. You know what I mean? Like I think
we actually don't have to. Cause fuck music. I don't give a fuck. Like you
know
listen
what?
to it, you don't listen to it. I got bars. You know, it doesn't even fucking matter. Like this conversation is just as much a part of who I am than us talking about the fucking drama mixtape or talking about the art exhibit I did. Like those are just things I'm doing, but like the real core of who I am is what we're talking about.
And that's the thing I think that's so important with music nowadays is there's so much of it out there.
Yeah.
And there's so much of it that's so good.
Yeah.
And there's so many different vessels and artists that you can receive it through, and there's so many different sounds that are being produced. To me, I think that, you know, obviously music are like mantras.
100%.
And I want to listen to music from artists that mentally are in a place that either I want to be.
For sure.
So I think that if someone listens to this, they're probably going to be like, that motherfucker's mental's so dope. I have to listen to his records.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing I think that's like so important. I was like listening to Future the other day in the gym, and I like posted to my Instagram story. I was listening to that song Superhero on Metro Boomin's tape.
Bro, hold on. Stop it.
Okay.
I've been working out every day to that record.
Okay.
Every day. That record is fucking crazy in the gym, dog.
Okay, yes. And you know what? I
I'm
said?
like getting fucking 30 miles an hour to that shit.
Bro, you know what's wild about this shit is not only several people said, yo, this shit goes crazy in the gym. And I didn't put the gym, but I was like, this song makes me want to do the following. Run through a wall. wear designer fashion, wear jewelry, fuck bitches. I was like, this shit makes me want to go. You know what I mean?
Why
Like,
is that? What?
because I feel like that, and that's the thing is like, at some points in time, it's fun to access that.
Yeah.
But that is the energy that Future is putting into it through who he is. Like, you see who he is.
Yeah.
That's who he fucking is.
Is.
He's embodying that.
There's something like I don't know what he's doing in the studio, but there's something about like I was just talking to a girl about this because I was like, she was like, "What are you listening to in the future?" I was like, "I be listening to the future because that motherfucker gets me to like go, you know, in the gym." That record super hero human is it
Yeah,
human?
superhero.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, bro, that shit is wild. And that's obviously the power of music, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I'm over here trying to abstain from all that shit in my everyday life. I click on a song and I'm just like, you know, like
One of my conflicts musically, it's not a conflict, but like I make music but like that, but like I want to make more music like that, right? Like superhero, like just hard, like that, the drama tape is kind of like on that vibe, right? But then I have this like inclination to make just this deep thought-provoking shit, but not just like conscious rapper bullshit, but like actually like palatable, great beats, great sonics, melody, but like with these like deeper pervasive ideas. And I think there's a way to marry the two, and I'm like on that quest to figure out how I can get niggas in the hood who are like driving down the street listening to Future to listen to my shit and it say some shit.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's funny. I seen a TikTok video of some
It's
interview.
hard because the Future thing, when I think about it, like superhero, that record, like, it's primal. It pulls at the bottom of your brainstem.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like pulls you into your flesh almost.
yeah.
And maybe that's what
Those melodies gotta get paid. It's like
and I think the thing about kind of what you're saying is if it's hard to kind of marry those two. Not saying
because
it's
it's two different
impossible.
parts of the brain.
Exactly.
Oh wow.
It's hard to marry those two because that's always the age old thing, right? It's like even with Kendrick's new album.
You just made me see it from a whole different perspective. It literally is two parts of your brain, like so yeah.
Because here's the thing, like for me, it's like when I'm trying to connect to my higher self.
Yeah.
I'm not like. The reason I wrote that is because I was like, this is almost embarrassing how inside my flesh I am, but I'm I'm in the gym.
Yeah.
And I'm like pumping blood into my fucking muscles. And I'm like, and like, so I think that there's like, I guess what inspired me when you said that was like, when you said, I kind of want to make music like that. And it's like, even though your consciousness is at a different level, I think that you can access your flesh and talk about some flesh shit too, and people will relate to it, because this isn't even meant to be a knock on Future saying, oh, he's on like some bullshit. It's like obviously it's
I mean, niggas on some sip and serve, I'm a drug addict, I fuck bitches and buy designer clothes shit.
Yeah,
call it whatever you want, but fucking the drama tape, I got a song where fucking bitches, that's my specialty, right? Like it's like fleshy shit, and niggas who like in fucking Kansas, Texas, like, yo, I be bumping your shit, right? And it was a moment, but like this next album I'm working on, I need to find it. Nothing's impossible, right? But I want to find the intersection between like the most musically inclined, lush sonics, walls of sound, married with just deep, introspective, life-changing lyrics that somehow make you want to fucking commit some sins. Or you could play in the gym, I don't know, but like I seen a video of like this TikTok person walking up to like high school students, and they were like, who's your favorite rapper, Future or Kendrick, right? And all of them said Future, like literally like all of them. It was like 50 kids, and I was like, damn, right? And I was thinking about it, and they were just like, I don't listen to that Kendrick shit. And Kendrick's last album is a masterpiece in many regards, It's poetic, it's introspective, it tackles a lot of self-reflective ideas. But these fucking kids are fucking bumping Future. They're listening to that superhero shit because they don't want to think.
Yeah.
They don't
At
want.
some point they will want to though.
When?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I wanted to bring up that conversation because I'm like, obviously these are the themes that like Kendrick is like weaving in and out of, and I'm sure that's the problem.
Yeah.
That he's trying. I mean, I think he's just getting on record and expressing himself. And what I like about an artist is like when they say the thing that only they could say.
Yeah.
You know, I think that Kendrick
is like Shakespeare to me.
Yeah.
Right. And this is no knock to Kendrick at all, because I mean I respect him and his artistry so much, but like Tupac, right? Tupac wasn't that much of a lyricist, but he said something that just like connected to your soul, right? In the most simplest way, right? Like just using regular King's English, right? There was no like 10-letter syllable words. It was, and you got it, right? And just following Kendrick on his journey, he'll say things in ways that are very like poetic, to where if you're not like really smart, you won't even get it, right? Because he could say the rose was red, but he'll be like the crimson blah 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 on the fucking da da da, you know? It's like, you know, and I feel like there's a place for that in history, because there are a lot of articulate people who need that stimulation, but like the world is how do I say this?
Well, we started the conversation by saying people don't fucking read books.
Yeah, so people don't read books. People aren't on, like, a lot of people aren't educating themselves to the degree. So if you want to get them information that will change their mind, their soul, their spirit, I feel like the person who does that needs to give it from the most like rudimentary fucking perspective.
You called it King's English.
Yeah, fucking King's English, man.
I like that. Yeah.
So it's a journey, man. I don't even know, for the first time, I don't know what the fuck I'm about to do musically. Normally I have a perspective, but all I've been doing, I downloaded like 500 records from like the 60s, the 50s, tribal music, fucking Brazilian jazz, and all I've been doing is just listening to music, because like I want to, this next project, I want it to be like, oh, this is the best shit I've ever heard type shit. Like I want it to be so hood, but sophisticated, jazzy, funky, but classical, fucking, you know what I mean? Like I want to like marry all of these ideas together. And so I've been like looking for producers and people who I know who can go there with me, you know?
Yeah. No, I think one thing I know is for sure is your message is going to come through clear.
Yeah,
you have such a gift for that. And so thanks for sharing that with me today. And
thank you, man. This has truly been an honor.
Bro, it's been incredible. Yeah, man, where can we find you online?
Before I tell you that, the reason why these interviews are so important is because they truly will like live on, you know, like long after I'm gone. You know, you take someone like a Nipsey or a Pac or anybody who's done anything for humanity, you know, at some point, you know, everyone's got an expiration date. So, you know, although we might not live forever, these recordings will, you know, and it might be a kid fucking 50 years from now looking at this like, oh, wow, he lived, you know, and so I think that's like so cool. So hi to the future. I hope you guys aren't in some like obliterated post-apocalyptic dystopian Dune type thing right now, looking at this shit on like some like cracked iPhone 3. I hope it's a more utopian society, and I hope you learn to love each other. And yeah, but you can find me.
Hell yeah, I agree with that. It's dope.
Did you just see that picture in your mind of like some like kids like on a fucking like iPhone like 100 like 60 years in the future, like looking at this shit
in some like bomb shelter?
In some bomb shelter.
Yeah, but I think when you said utopian, I actually connected to that more, because I actually think that's the direction we're moving. more utopian, I think.
I believe we can get to utopia, but not until everything gets destroyed.
Mm.
I think it's going to take. I think it's going to take severe disaster, death, carnage to reach utopia because humans like remember when Corona first happened, right? It wasn't about race anymore. It wasn't about it. It was like everyone was kind of just like afraid equally. So like wasn't no racist talk. It was just like I want to survive. You want to survive, right? Big fucking earthquakes when shit just gets destroyed. Race goes under the bridge. You know what I mean? You could be a Nazi, you know what I mean? Driving down the street after and you're gonna help a black kid, you know, or whatever, you know, like it takes like tragedy and shit for humans to want to like get that level of love. And I think it's gonna take a lot more of like these like Corona incidences and shit like that for us to realign our priorities.
Right.
And then once that happens,
I just feel like to me, the Corona thing, the most dangerous thing about the Corona thing was how, like, it was all the information that was being spread and shared about it digitally because we have all these, like, amazing technologies. And I think that it was, like, just jarring and confusing, but it was natural that it happened at that time because we knew so little about it, right?
did you see the marketing plan, though, of Corona? Whoever the publicist of Corona initially, like, do you remember the first video of, like, Asian people just passing out like at fucking train stations and shit?
No, I didn't see that.
Bro, that's how I first heard about Corona. Someone was like, yo, you gotta watch this video. It was like 4 people just passing out. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, you know what I mean?
The first thing I actually saw on it was the podcaster Tim Ferriss that I mentioned earlier. He basically put out a newsletter because a lot, obviously, since the top of the year, they were talking about it back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And then he was like, he put this out probably a week before I heard other people even taking it really seriously, especially in news media.
Yeah.
And he was basically saying, and he's kind of like I don't know, he just is like really cautious and thoughtful and thinks ahead and shit. And he was basically saying, all the smart doctors and people that I've dealt with, especially on the East Coast, they think that the hospitals are going to become overwhelmed. And so this is why we need to shelter in place. And this is why we need to do this because it's going to affect our medical system, essentially. And that like made perfect sense to me. But I guess the funny thing about it is just like how social and political it became.
Yeah.
That was where I was like, this is actually a bigger problem than the said virus almost, you know, is like how much we can't agree about it. But the cool thing about living in the States for the most part is the autonomy that we have, right? And like how we can just be like, you and I can like form our own opinion to a certain degree. So that's, I think, the thing that is like, as long as we have our autonomy whenever they drop the next pandemic.
I mean, they're dropping these shits like mixtapes, dog. I mean,
they're putting them out faster than fucking David Sebastian records, man.
No, I mean, they tried with the fucking chickenpox, smallpox shit. Like they tried. Like honestly, I think they're trying to see like test humanity, like test like, okay, we scared them with the corona. Let's see if we do this with it, like da. But I think it's not going in their favor. Cause like if they try to shut shit down again right now, I don't think we would fall for it. I think
no, we wouldn't. And I think that a lot of it is like, to me, throughout the course of the thing, it was like a good exercise in like our bullshit detectors as just humans.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's pretty much bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a time where it's like, it's a free media era. That's what's encouraging about it too, is like this free media era is dope, where it's like Joe Rogan has the fucking biggest podcast in the world and he's at least asking the hard questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or he's at least bringing people with different beliefs on to like dissect some sort of public problem, you know, whether you like them or not. It's like, that's dope. At least we're not just getting it through the TV, you know what I mean? And through like whatever the corporations are. Do
you do psychedelics?
I haven't. I don't.
I always wanted to do an interview. Maybe I could coerce someone to do it, but like I want to do it like in Joshua Tree, right? Like get a fireplace. Literally start the thing by just taking like hellish shrooms, right? And just watch this interview just progressively get fucking insane.
It's a great idea. It's a fucking really good idea. Yeah, that's amazing. Bro, yeah, no, it's been such a pleasure. I know it's like I don't even mean to cut us off. I just feel
Yeah.
like I want like it's such a there's so much packed in here that I
We'll
don't
do a
want.
part 2 at
Yeah,
some
no,
point.
absolutely. I was like thinking, I was like, we gotta just run this back because I think there's so much shit. Even listening, hearing this back, I'm gonna be like, okay, I want to
Yeah.
talk about this and this.
Well, if you want to find me, my name is probably in the description or something.
Yeah, it's right
So just
there.
fucking Google my name and something to pop up. I mean, if you want to, you can find anything you want if you look hard enough. So
Where do you
David
want them
Sebastian.
to interact with you? What do you want them to send you a message on Instagram? Like,
Text me.
Let's go.
310-388-5193. If you like have a question about any of this or need some mentorship or if you got some emotions you need to just get off, just text me. I text back. I have like literally like this will really blow your mind because I do it every day.
We didn't even talk about Ryan Leslie.
Oh shit, we didn't. But bro, you see these blue dots? I maybe have like 20,000 unanswered texts, but I like go through them every day. This shit could go for like an hour, dog.
How do the people that you need to get to you get to you? That's like going direct to your phone.
Just going direct to my phone. Yeah. And that's just on that. And then my regular text messages, let's see how many fucking I got like
That's on what's it called?
2,000 text messages on the regular thing. Yeah. Yeah. Just got some good news. But yeah, so just text me and I'll if it's urgent, just write urgent and I'll go to the top. Yes.
Dope.
So
Thanks, David.
thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you, my brother.
All right, man.